Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the October 12th Smackdown review. Let's see the differences between this Smackdown compared to the same Raw the same week. This is interesting. The beginning of the show isn't a promo segment. It's not a match. It's a contest. You have Sheamus versus The Big Show doing a punch meter contest. In other words, both of them are going to hit a punching bag that's connected up to a computer, and they're going to see the PSI, or pounds per square inch, of strength they both have. Now, I'm not sure that they had the right numbers, but taking away from if it's accurate or not, I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm taking a guess those numbers are not accurate. I understand that in actual science, a full prize fighter, heavyweight, can hit about 5,000 newtons of strength, which is supposed to be about 500 to 1,000, about 500 PSI. I could be wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Don't quote me on it. But the PSI for a normal human being or prize fighter is not extremely high. It's high, but not like to the points of pounds per square inch they're showing. But it does make a difference. Booker T conducts this very well. I did enjoy how he was talking about, here is the Big Show, here is Sheamus. We're going to have a contest to see whose punch is the strongest, the brogue kick or the WMD, as he said, the knockout punch. And I like to say that at least at the beginning, Big Show acting pissed off and didn't want to do it, and going towards the crowd as a heel was very good. It was a little annoying after it reached the second time when especially Sheamus said, "What's wrong, fella? You want a hug?" That part I think became a little annoying, but at first he did it very well. Now for Sheamus, he did a PSI of 1322. I'm making sure because, yep, 1322 PSI. Supposedly that's how strong his kick is. Now for the Big Show, who kept getting taunted by Sheamus, and oh, I wish to say clearly right now, when it comes to Josh Matthews having JBL with him, I loved it. I'll explain this after this part. But essentially speaking, after this kick, the Big Show got so pissed off he hit the bag and it went to 1,809 PSI. Sheamus and Big Show had their stare down. Big Show leaves, and then Sheamus is talking about, I know I didn't look like I took it very seriously beforehand. Now I'm taking it seriously now. And at that very moment, Tensai attacks him, which I can say is very good. Some people might say, I don't know who, but if it's a casual fan, maybe they may say, why is Tensai attacking him? Well, understand, he did get bro kicked on Monday Night Raw while Sheamus and Big Show was trying to up one another. So this stays with the storyline, which I'm glad they're doing that, because lately the WWE doesn't keep their storyline straight. They make them very sloppy. So this is still very good. And Tensai versus Sheamus, which was the first match of the night, I'm going to say it's a standard match. It wasn't a great one. It wasn't. It wasn't very sloppy at all. Tensai looked alright. Looked good. Mr. Rao, he looked good. He's still a good guy if they just package him, well, not package him any different, just push him. There you go. And now the Sakamoto, if that's the guy's name, he's not there anymore. That makes it a little better, because even though Sakamoto was interesting, the thing was that he wasn't really doing a lot, and then getting his ass kicked by Tensai didn't really help Tensai much. Now without him, we could have Tensai go to another manager. I hope they do. But essentially speaking is this. Tensai loses the match. Yeah, it wasn't a very short match. It was longer than most. Maybe about 7 or 8 minutes. It was not that short. So it was okay. And what I said earlier about Josh Matthews and JBL, great commentary. Especially from JBL, which I'm wondering, because that Jerry the King Lawler is not on Raw, and usually they would always keep Jerry on Raw. They'd rarely take him off Raw. Unless they're going to do pay-per-views where he's going to be there, of course. He doesn't do Smackdown. I think because Jerry's not there, they're leaving, basically, unless there was some type of problem, they're going to leave Michael Cole on Raw until Jerry the King Lawler comes back. Because the senior one right now is Michael Cole. Even though JBL has done commentary before, he's not as senior as Michael Cole, so it's okay. I'm really glad that JBL's there. He brings the type of energy as much as Booker T did when he was doing Smackdown. And I'm saying this clearly, that you can't compare apples and oranges. I'm saying that both of them have great energy. Both of them did their own type of stick. And I'm saying JBL is well within the same caliber as a Booker T. He brings energy to it. I loved it throughout the night. I was not bored. Some of these matches were kind of not my favorites, but he gave it such energy that I was not bored as much as I thought I would usually be if it was just Cole and maybe Josh Matthews. I was not bored with the commentary at all. Now, we have several backstages. I'm going to combine them all when it comes to ADR and Ricardo Rodriguez. ADR heard that he's there that night, and he told Ricardo Rodriguez to go and find him. First time he tries to find him, he runs into Santino with his Cobra. And it was funny a little bit, hearing that. And he's going, is that the Viper? You got to be kidding me. It was stupid, but it was funny. And then when Santino scared him out of the skin, I enjoyed it. The bit about Santino talking about, oh, you're scared of my Cobra? Of course. You're scared because of Randy Orton and his Viper. That was a bit funny. I have to admit that. Now the next backstage was Ricardo by himself, and this time around, he thought he heard Randy Orton's voice. When he goes into the locker room, he finds Hornswoggle, which we don't really see a lot of Hornswoggle, unless maybe it's on Superstars or NXT. He was on Smackdown this time, and he had a Randy Orton, I think it's called a Brawl Buddy. Or, what? I think it's called a Brawl Buddy. I didn't notice the name on it. I don't got one. But essentially speaking is this, Ricardo Rodriguez tried to beat the crap out of it, which he did, and that was not too bad. And the final backstage is with ADR. Ricardo leaves, and he's with Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan says that not only I'm the tag team champion, that he is way better than ADR, and the only reason that you're here is because Randy Orton didn't catch you. And he also said we're going to have a match later in the night, and I'm going to get to that one. But I did like this. They prominently featured ADR, and this is going into Hell in a Cell. And now I'm going to move on to the next thing, and let's see what we've got, ladies and gentlemen. We got the Santino and Zack versus Heath Slater and Jinder Mahal with, we have Drew McIntyre in tow. Okay, the match was not the key here. Doesn't matter. This was all revolving around Heath Slater and his encore. This is what it was all about. The match was a standard match. There was interference by Drew by the end of it, and Heath Slater gets the win over Zack Ryder, which is good. He lost to Zack Ryder. It's been known. He did lose to him. So, what came of this before the match began and after the match was something that was good. These three basically have nothing to do. And whenever they've been on television, they have been jobbing or been squashed so badly while they've been jobbing, they've been meaningless. Now, each one of them had a chance to speak. Of course, Heath Slater grabs the mic out of Jinder Mahal's hand as he's about to say what we are. And I like that. Heath Slater is still keeping his original character, and this is going very well. If they continue it, I know some people are going to think, are you kidding me? These guys don't match up. There's nothing there. Of course there's nothing there. I said one time with Heath Slater, he had so many bad things. He's like a B-movie Heath Slater. He had so many bad things going for him, he's actually good. His mic skills aren't that great. His charisma is not great. His in-ring skills are not great. His telling of a story, the telling of the story and in-ring skills are pretty much the same. The ring presence is not great. His physique is not great. But when you combine it all it's still something that's very viable. And these other two, Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre, well, we know Drew McIntyre as the Sinister Scotsman. I say this again, he should have gone back to the moniker Sinister Scotsman. But taking away from that, you got two other guys. Well, one of them has great potential in Drew McIntyre, and one has potential as a good mid-carder, just like Heath Slater. He's there. They have been packaged so badly. They have almost nothing to go for them. They have almost no charisma because they haven't been on TV. They have no in-ring skills because they're not allowed to show it. They have no, basically, they can't tell a good story, of course, because they're not allowed to. Just like in-ring skills, pretty much the same. Their charismas have been almost zero, but putting them all together, if they're allowed to get their time in and get some wins under the belt, could become something good. They're like a B-movie. Just like I said, some of the old cult classics were terrible B-movies. Look at a good B-movie, for example. Look at the Goonies. If anyone's ever seen Goonies, it's a terrible B-movie, but guess what? It's a cult classic. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a low-budget movie, but it became a cult classic, baby. Several movies that you consider as total trash by today's standards is a cult classic. And these three are, if they are packaged properly, in other words, they're allowed to be properly featured, they're allowed to get over enough, they could become a cult classic. They could get over enough that if they got to split off like with Drew, particularly out of the entire group, the one that looks like the best potential for a main eventer is Drew McIntyre. I'm going to say it clearly. The other two, Ginger and Heath Slater, can be good in the mid-card or good in the undercard. They can be. I say mid-card for both of them. They're not bad. But if they're not allowed to get over, it makes no difference. This is their chance. I'm going to leave it at that. The match was a standard match. Now, we had, this one was a disaster. Well, not a disaster for The Miz, but it was a disaster for Kofi Kingston. We had Kofi versus The Big Show. Now, it's not like we haven't seen him before. There was many months ago where Kofi Kingston was in a steel cage with The Big Show. Got his clock cleaned by The Big Show quickly. No different from this. Kofi loses within 3 to 4 minutes. This sets up a match on Wednesday Night Main Event. Please someone tell me if they want me to do a review of Wednesday Night Main Event. I've left it, and maybe I might include it into some of my Smackdown reviews because it comes afterwards. This is the only reason I'm bringing it in, because it's going to be covering Hell in a Cell. This match, if it's not for the title, which I don't believe it's going to be, this is setting up for Hell in a Cell because The Miz really doesn't have anything to do for this Hell in a Cell, as far as I know. I haven't checked the website to see what they're going to be doing with him. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be Miz against Kofi Kingston. Kofi, and I have had a chance to look at his wiki. He's been 2-time tag team champion. He's been 4-time intercontinental champion. And he's been once the U.S. champion. I could be wrong about the U.S. champion. I don't believe I am. But essentially speaking, it looks like they're going to have him go through another run with the IC championship, if he's even allowed to win. This might just be for The Miz to have someone to go up against, because he has been known to be a credible tag team champion and IC champion. So hopefully, Kofi doesn't win this. I'd rather see The Miz hold this title a little bit longer until there's an opening for him in the main title scene. If they don't have one, let him keep the belt because he has great charisma. Miz TV will go over very well if he's allowed to have more of it. Unlike the promo pre-tape of showing Larry King, his wife, and The Miz, instead of Miz TV with The Miz and Larry King. I say this again, like I said in my Raw review. They should allow The Miz on his birthday not get squashed. They should allow him for his birthday to have Larry King on his show. That would have been an epic Miz TV. Kofi Kingston could have still came in, and if he had to squash him, fine. But this would have been better for The Miz. It would have been on his terms. And I didn't like how they did The Miz, honestly. I didn't like the segment. It was dull, it was boring, and then Miz getting squashed made it worse. This Miz did some decent commentary, and as I said earlier, JBL just made the matches feel more vibrant, more substantial, like it was meaningful. Even though this match wasn't very interesting, JBL made it interesting. So our next, any more matches here? Sin Cara versus Damien Sandow. 1. You have Cody Rhodes with Damien. 2. Where was Rey Mysterio? Where was he? Because it was in California. I don't remember where in California, but this show was in California, and also was to say for the entire show, the California crowd was epic. They were really into almost every match, no matter if they sucked or not. But honestly, Sin Cara should have had Rey by his side because that is his tag team partner. If Rey had to be home because of an emergency or something, fine. If he just wanted a day off, I'd find that stupid. He was needed there. If he only had to be there for 5 to 10 minutes and then afterward could leave the show, that would have been easier. Because it felt empty without Rey there in Sin Cara's corner. Now, it was a standard match. I do have to admit Damien looked good until it came to the point where Cody had to get kicked out because the ref, now with the zero tolerance that seems to be following from Raw into Smackdown, zero tolerance, tries to kick out Cody Rhodes. Cody's saying, I didn't do anything. As Damien's arguing with the ref, Sin Cara jumps on him, does a Hurricanrana, and then gets the win. Which, you could say this is leading up to Monday Night Raw for their final showdown. They needed a win to try and make them more credible, especially that Sin Cara and Rey did get squashed by the primetime players and did get messed with Damien and Cody. It makes some sense. But honestly, it would have been better if Rey had been there. It didn't have to be solely about Sin Cara. You're trying to build Sin Cara up with Rey. Having Sin Cara by himself at certain points is not going to help him much because he hasn't looked good for months. Really. Sin Cara doesn't have that much credibility and much strength behind it, even though the crowd was behind him tonight. Don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. In that show, Sin Cara was popped big. But if you go somewhere else, he doesn't have the same pop. He needs Rey to give him more strength. He needs to get over with Rey more, and then when Rey's not there, then he can try and raise it. It's too soon. That's why it just didn't feel right for me. It was still a decent match, and I'll leave it at that. Now, we have, ADR versus, you know what? I'm going to leave that for a minute, because I just remembered. We have another match, and another backstage. I'm going to do this one first. Kane versus Dolph. Dudes, Dolph did not win here. Of course. Dolph did a standing match. Of course. Dolph looked good. Of course. Dolph had the skills. Of course. But normally, Dolph jobbed. Of course. But get this. Dolph did not job normally. PQ. Finally. Even what happens afterwards, finally, Dolph is allowed to have some heel heat by whacking Kane as he jumps off the top turnbuckle in the head. This was good, even though afterward was for the storyline for Daniel Bryan and Kane. But essentially speaking, this was so good that for once they allowed Dolph to lose in a way that didn't make him look bad. Having him have a disqualification is better than him jobbing. But the problem here afterwards is what happened to him. Kane basically gets back at him, and as Dolph rolls out of the ring after getting whacked, Daniel Bryan rolls into the ring. Basically, he's protecting Kane and says, I'm protecting you. Kane says, no, you're not. And they start doing that back and forth as usual. Matt Striker, who we usually don't see come out from the back, comes to the ring and says simply, gentlemen, please, please, this is the reason why a lot of people think you're not going to last much longer because you're constantly fighting. And then he faces Daniel Bryan, which is a big mistake, Daniel Bryan, a lot of people are saying that you were the one who is the weak link in this chain of this team. How do you feel about that? He hits Matt Striker and tries to throw him into the damn no-lock. Epic. I know people are going to say, oh, please, that's nothing. No. This is something we don't see on Raw. We don't see a lot of this stuff on Raw, especially what's been going through most of the night. Letting Daniel Bryan get over like this is much different than letting him have a promo segment talking his ass off. Having an action can be way better than having words. And even though it did mess up Dolph, that I'd rather have seen Dolph roll out of the ring and leave. That's what I really wanted Dolph to have. But still going with the Daniel Bryan and Kane storyline, this actually wasn't bad. The crowd loved it. They ate it like it was crackers. Like, you know how they, like with, when you got crackers or popcorn or potato chips, you just can't have one. That people were screaming for this. And then when Kane takes them off, and JBL did this so well. JBL said, what is he doing? This is Kane. This is the monster. Why is he stopping him? And then when Kane's ready to choke slam Matt Striker, and he said, now we're going to it. I like this. The commentary, since Josh Matthews it looks like Josh is not great of a commentator. He's decent, but he doesn't have that type of charisma as JBL does. JBL dominated the commentary this night, and he made it sound so good. Something like this that would seem kind of boring at the point, even though if it was on Raw, it would be kind of boring in the sense that we've seen some stuff like this. It felt so fresh. This made this entire segment. And then it was before the choke slam, when they started going back and forth, and the way JBL continued to play off of it, and after the slam, I loved it. I was not bored at all with this segment. This was good. So finally, the last backstage we have is going to be with 5 people. Booker T, listening to Caitlyn and Layla, saying they found a wig. They first said found a wig. Then they said Oksana found a wig in Eve's bag. Then Eve comes out and said, I found a wig. Sticks it on Teddy's head. A black man with blonde hair. Where have we seen that before? Oh, Shelton Benjamin. Somebody we haven't seen that much either. But seeing Teddy wearing that blonde wig was just, I didn't expect that. That was just stupid. But it was funny. But the way that Booker T said, please head back, I'll deal with this. And then Booker T leaves, and when it comes to, and as I said before, the conflict between Eve and Teddy Long is escalating. Eve is doing everything she can to discredit Teddy Long so he can be gotten rid of, so she can go up in rank. This is how I believe it's going to happen. Teddy is going to be kicked out. Well, he'll still be there, but he won't be the advisor to Booker T. Booker T is going to have Eve by his side. And from what I can tell, Eve is going to do everything she can to sabotage Booker T to become GM. I'm saying this again early before this happened. I don't think this is going to happen right now. Maybe by the end of this year, it may happen. Maybe the time of Survivor Series or TLC, we're going to see this conflict between Teddy and Eve finally come to its conclusion. I doubt they're going to get rid of Eve now. They can't. The storyline is too detailed now having Eve in it. Basically, there's going to eventually be a point where Eve will become solely working with Booker T, and then Eve is going to screw Booker T, and she's going to take the position. So this is my estimation and my prediction. Now, finally, the Daniel Bryan and ADR match. This is something that could have been a pay-per-view match. For the simple fact, you have 2 men who do solely submission. They don't usually win by pinfalls. They don't win by high spots. They win solely by 90% of the time by submission. Now, if they had not packaged ADR and Daniel Bryan so badly over the last 6 to 9 months, they could have had a pay-per-view match out of this. Submission versus submission. I would have been interested to see the cross arm breaker against, at the time, the Yes Lock, or the LaBelle Lock, or the no lock, or how some people would say it but don't want to hear it, the crossface. It's still known by that hold in TNA. They don't do it in WWE, but I'm just leaving it as that. That's all the names for that hold that he uses, Daniel Bryan. The match was a good match. It wasn't a great match, but it was good. They both got in their spots. Daniel Bryan jobs to ADR. Good. For the simple fact that the tag team champion does not get over in this respect. He already got over early in the night when he was with Kane and did the no lock on Matt Striker. He had to lose this. This is what I believe, to give ADR more credibility. Particularly what happened afterwards when he basically does his promo saying, you know what, I am now the one who's the apex predator. I am now the one who put Randy Orton away. And as he's faking Randy Orton's movements, especially when he's about to do RKO, when he falls to the floor and starts hammering his arms, Randy Orton catches him. He's just staring dead in his face. Someone had to cue him very well for that. You could hear the people already cheering. He already did his move, and it was good. Randy Orton did not squash ADR. He squashed Ricardo Rodriguez. But still, this still leads up to Hell in a Cell, better than what they've been doing over the last 6 to 9 months for most of the matches they've been doing. I'm not saying it's great, particularly what happens, two things. One, ADR didn't get enough hits in. He could have gotten more hits in while Randy Orton was beating him up. Two, and this is something the Seg Daddy said a long time ago in one of his videos. He says, Randy Orton, you need to learn how to break the table properly. This is how you hurt people. Randy Orton went back to his old ways. When he did the RKO with Ricardo Rodriguez, the table didn't break. This is how people get hurt. He needs to learn how to break the table properly. If he doesn't break the table properly, him and his partner that he's doing this move with is going to get seriously hurt. And unfortunately, the table didn't break. Hopefully Ricardo Rodriguez and Randy Orton, even if you don't like Randy Orton, you don't want to see someone get hurt. Didn't seem to be badly injured from it. But honestly, this show, if it didn't come to the table not breaking, and what was the part I didn't like? The Kofi and Big Show match. That really didn't have to happen. And also Dolph having to be the one that had to do that little business after the match. This would have been a B+ show, honestly. I know people may say, hey, you crazy. There wasn't that much in there that was great. Honestly, compared to Raw 2 weeks ago and compared to Raw this week, this is a way better show. I am telling you clearly, this show is way better than either Raws in the last 2 weeks, including the Smackdown the last week before that. This is a way better show. I would have given it a B+. I'm giving this a B- because of those three things: the Big Show and the Kofi match, the Kane and Dolph match, where Dolph had to do not the job for Kane to lose the match, but to be needed to prolong the Kane and Daniel Bryan storyline. I kind of wish it could have been someone else. But having it that way, it wasn't that bad for Dolph because he didn't lose by jobbing. So I still say this is a B- show. Went down by just one little click, but it's still a good show. It's above a B. So this is my show. This is my review of that show. I hope you enjoyed the Zane's View. Subscribe and comment. I'm sorry I could not get to Impact. I had an emergency on Friday and Thursday, and I didn't even have a chance to even see the Impact. If anybody wants me to do an Impact review, please leave a comment here in the Smackdown review so I'll get a chance to look it over and I'll make a review for it if you want me to do the review of Impact. Now, you have a nice evening. Take care.